they're not making migration very easy. So unless you're on a 360 account, you can't really tap into it directly with BigQuery. Is that correct? Or is there like another workaround to get data out easily?
Let's just talk about the intentions. I want to defend Google here and say this to everybody. If your job was if you were at Google and you were getting sued in European courts all the time for something that you don't even charge people for,
Yeah.
and you were getting your job was like just answering calls in the middle of the night and like responding to subpoenas and court documents and everything like that about a product that you don't charge for and that really doesn't have any revenue attached to it or barely breaks even or loses money. And yet, what would you do? You'd have to do something, right? We can blame them all we want to. We can conspiracy had it, but I think that honestly, there are some things they're probably doing that aren't great that I wouldn't do or whatever. But I understand their position. But anyway, so your question was more around what was the question again?
People are going to lose their data at a
Oh
particular
yeah.
cutoff
Yeah.
time.
So
Yeah.
BigQuery is supported in GA4. BigQuery is supported in Universal Analytics 360. It's not supported in GA Universal like without paying for it. But you have access to the API. You could export data through the API, and then you could use that API to put it into a data warehouse if you want to. Supermetrics has a solution for a data warehouse that I'm experimenting with. I'm going to be doing some stuff with them to try to figure out their solution. But basically, yeah, you want to get your data out of UA and into a data warehouse. Right now, usually you have to connect to the API with code and then pull the data out. And since there's a lot of limits around how much data you can get out in a day, how many hits you can do the API, you might need to batch it. So you're pulling one day at a time through history and you're going back every day or you're pulling it and then 2 hours later you pull another day or you request it that way. You have to iterate and step through it. So getting data out right now is not super easy without a developer or a tool. There are some tools that allow you to just export your data and push it into BigQuery, but there's nothing that's as easy as click a button and it just works yet, at least that I know of. There is ways around it. It just depends on how much you want to invest in that. I'm sort of waiting until next year to really give my solution for it because I need to experiment still. Like I'm reacting now, but I think the solution will be as easy as one click of a button. It'll put it into a instance of either BigQuery or any other type of data storage, and then that will be something where you can query that against your GA4 data in the future.
You'll need like some kind of front end, right? Some kind of interface to grab that data and make it meaningful.
I mean, a query engine just allows you to select different rows from the table. Usually you'd want some kind of exploration that makes sense of it. The Supermetrics one, for example, would then interface with Data Studio so you can visualize it, which should be nice. So
I'd say the majority of people probably only use about 2% of Google Analytics anyway. So it'd be shortcutting and creating a much more user-friendly interface by something like Data Studio.
Yeah. And honestly, I think they use 2% of Universal Analytics and most of it's unnecessary. And also, if you wanted to really map out your entire company's strategy with all your touch points, you're better off doing that in GA4 and using something like BigQuery and Supermetrics than you would ever be in Universal. So why port over and keep Universal when it was never truly integrated with anything? And why preserve all that versus why don't you make that a data source in your new system, your system that actually works?